We're steel that fire couldn't break. A cinematic motivational essay by Minh Quang. The birth of fire. Pain is the forge, and the brave are the metal. C.C. Minh Quang. The world doesn't shape us gently. It hammers, it burns, it bends. But for those who refuse to yield, every blow becomes a lesson, every flame a test. There comes a moment in every human life when comfort dissolves and only the raw truth remains. The truth that we were never meant to stay unbroken because it's the breaking that defines our strength. We are not porcelain meant for display. We are steel. Born from the collision of chaos and courage, molded in heat and hardened in storms. This is the story of what the fire couldn't break. Not because it was merciful, but because we were unshakable. The forge. Sha Chamim Si. Minh Quang. There is a silence before every storm. A heartbeat that trembles in the dark, waiting for the first strike. That is where strength is born. Not in victory, not in comfort, but in that trembling moment before the fire begins. The world does not shape us with gentle hands. It hammers, it scorches, it breaks what is hollow and leaves what is real. Every generation discovers this truth the hard way, that growth demands fire, and that endurance is the only prayer that survives the flame. The forge is not a place of beauty. It is a crucible of heat and noise, where everything weak screams to escape. Yet within that chaos, something magnificent happens. The raw material of a human soul begins to glow. We enter the furnace as fragile ore, confused, uncertain, afraid. We emerge as steel. But that transformation is not instant. It is earned through scars, through nights when you stare at a ceiling and feel the weight of the world pressing down on your chest, through the mornings when getting out of bed is an act of rebellion against despair. The forge teaches a sacred paradox. Pain does not come to punish, but to prepare. Every burn carries wisdom. Every strike of the hammer is a promise that if you can endure this, you will become unbreakable. Fire has no mercy, but it has purpose. It strips away illusion, pride, fear, and pretension until only essence remains. That essence is your truth, silent, glowing, indestructible. And so we stand here, in the first act of our becoming, feeling the temperature rise. Around us, sparks dance like stars. Each spark is a memory of a moment we thought we'd never survive. And yet we did. We were not meant to live untouched by pain. We were meant to live through it, to be refined by it, defined by it, illuminated by it. Because pain is not the enemy, it is the artist. When the hammer falls again, and it will, remember this: you are not breaking, you are taking shape. You are becoming what the world needs and what the fire cannot destroy. The forge hums with destiny. The air smells of smoke and new beginnings. Somewhere within the noise, a voice rises, your own, deeper now, steadier, tempered by heat. I was not made to rust. I was made to rise. Every hero's story begins here, not with applause, but with fire. Not with perfection, but with pressure. And though the flames lick at your edges, you stand, eyes unblinking, because you finally understand pain is not chaos. Pain is choreography. It moves you. It tests you. It prepares you for the stage where your courage will be seen. You are steel, and this is only the beginning. The heart of the fire. From We're Steel That Fire Couldn't Break by Minh Quang. The forge begins to roar louder now. The heat is no longer something outside of you. It's inside. It burns not to destroy, but to remind you that something alive is still fighting to emerge. Every story of greatness passes through this valley, the valley where dreams blister and courage bleeds, where hope is not a song, but a whisper barely heard beneath the thunder of life's trials. The heart of the fire is where most turn back, because this is the place where nothing seems to make sense anymore, where faith feels foolish and strength feels like fiction. But here's the truth that the flames whisper to the few who stay. The fire is not your enemy. It's your mirror. It shows you what still holds value. It burns away everything else. One, the breaking point. There comes a point where pain stops feeling poetic. It just hurts. You stop asking why and start asking how much longer. And yet, somehow, you breathe again. That breath, quiet and stubborn, is the seed of endurance. It's not glamorous. It's not heroic. It's human. Steel isn't formed in one strike. It takes countless blows, and every blow whispers, endure a little more. In those moments, you discover something sacred, that your strength was never about winning. It was about withstanding. To endure is to say, you can scar me, but you cannot stop me. It's to bleed with dignity, to ache with grace, to walk through the fire, knowing every step is shaping the soul beneath the skin. 2, the weight of loneliness. Endurance is often lonely. The crowd that cheered at your start disappears in the smoke. The road becomes silent, except for the sound of your own heartbeat echoing between memories of who you were and visions of who you must become. This loneliness is the echo chamber of transformation. It is here, in isolation, that steel realizes its purpose. You start to understand that solitude is not punishment, it is revelation. When everything external fades, you begin to hear your inner voice more clearly. And that voice does not beg for rescue. It declares, I will save myself. That is the sound of rebirth, not loud, but pure. The phoenix never screams in agony when it burns. It burns in silence with dignity, because it knows that what's being destroyed is not itself. Only the version that can no longer fly. 3, the fire's lesson. Fire has one lesson: transformation or nothing. It offers no compromise. You either evolve or you perish. And yet, isn't that what life itself demands? That we shed the skins of our old fears, that we walk barefoot across the coals of truth to stand in the light of authenticity? The pain that you curse today may be the reason you stand tall tomorrow. Because fire does not ask for your permission. It asks for your participation. Every challenge is a conversation with your own soul. How much of you is real? The answer is found in the silence between your screams. You begin to realize that the ones who endure don't do it because they feel strong. They do it because they've accepted the necessity of pain. They've understood that comfort is forgettable, but struggle writes legacy. When steel emerges from the forge, no one applauds the fire, but without it, there would be no shine. 4, the inner revolt. At the height of suffering, something shifts. You stop waiting for the pain to end, and instead, you enter it. You look into the flames, not with fear, but with defiance. The same heat that once terrified you becomes your teacher, your ally, your rhythm. You move through it. You breathe in its chaos, and suddenly, for the first time, the fire bends to you. That's the birth of power. Not control over the world, but mastery over yourself. You realize you were never the victim of the fire. You were the spark all along. Pain taught you how to rise, how to stand even when your knees tremble. It taught you that suffering is not the end of your story. It's the punctuation before the next sentence. 5, the unseen victory. There is a moment in every warrior's journey when nothing around them changes, and yet everything within them does. You may still be surrounded by ashes, but inside there is a calm, quiet certainty. That certainty is victory. Not the kind that needs applause or validation, but the kind that whispers, "I am still here." You become a storm contained within human form, disciplined, fierce, alive. No longer desperate to prove your worth because the fire has already confirmed it. The world sees your scars and thinks they mark your pain, but you know better. They mark your passage. They are your map of survival, your proof of existence. And from this point forward, you walk differently. Not lighter, but deeper. The heart of the fire does not destroy, it defines. And those who endure it are never the same again. Their voices carry gravity. Their presence hums with quiet power. They no longer fear loss because they've already lost and lived. They no longer chase perfection because they've seen what beauty looks like when it's cracked. And they no longer ask, "Why me?" Only, "What now?" That is the language of the unbreakable. That is the echo of the forge continuing to sing in the heart of every soul that refuses to give up. The fire is still raging, but you are no longer afraid, because now you are the fire. The rebirth of steel, from "We're steel that fire couldn't break" by Minh Quang led. The flames begin to fade not because they die, but because you've learned to breathe inside them. What once felt like punishment now feels like power. You stand in the ruins of what tried to end you, and you are still standing. The night that once swallowed you whole now bends around your light. You realize that survival was never the goal. Transformation was. You have walked through fire and come out carrying its glow. The air is cool now. The smoke thins. And in that silence, you meet yourself, reborn, tempered, unafraid. The moment after the storm. Every storm leaves two things behind: destruction and clarity. When the noise ends, you finally hear your heart beat again, and it sounds different. It doesn't race with fear, it pulses with conviction. You have seen the worst the world can throw at you, and you did not disappear. You learned that being unbreakable doesn't mean untouched, it means undefeated. Now you walk among the ashes like a new creature, half scar, half light. Every wound has become a window, every scar a story written in flame. You no longer hide them. You wear them like medals carved by destiny. Because every mark is a testament. This one tried to destroy me and failed. The return of purpose. When you rise from the forge, you begin to see the world differently. The small things that used to consume you fall silent. The noise of fear no longer controls the rhythm of your days. You begin to move with intention. You speak with weight. You choose battles not to prove your strength, but to protect your peace. That is the transformation the fire was always after. Not the making of a warrior who conquers others, but of a soul who governs itself. Purpose doesn't arrive like thunder. It arrives like dawn, quiet, inevitable, unstoppable. And with it comes gratitude, not for the pain, but for what it revealed. You understand now that everything you endured had to happen exactly as it did, because without those flames, the steel in you would still be asleep. 3, the legacy of endurance people will ask how you did it, how you walked through what would have crushed them. You will smile, not out of pride, but out of understanding. Because you know there are no shortcuts through the fire. There is only courage, patience, and faith in the unseen. Legacy is not built in moments of triumph. It is built in moments of endurance. It is carved in silence, forged in solitude, written in sweat and perseverance. You are no longer the person who prayed for easy days. You are the one who learned to dance in difficult ones. And now, wherever you go, others feel something when you enter. A calm strength, a quiet assurance that storms can be survived. You have become living proof that the human spirit, once awakened, cannot be extinguished. For the rise of the unbreakable. There is a light that only those who've burned can carry. It's not dazzling, it's steady, like the glow of molten metal cooling in the dark. You walk forward with that light, not needing permission, not fearing judgment. Because when you've stood in the fire and found yourself there, you no longer chase validation. You embody it. You don't seek to be invincible. You seek to be true. And truth is the sharpest form of strength. When you speak, the world listens. Not because your voice is louder, but because it carries weight. The weight of every night you didn't quit. The gravity of every fall you turned into a step. You are not the same. You are more. You have become steel with a heartbeat, unyielding, alive, luminous. The awakening. And then comes the quiet realization, the kind that doesn't shout but settles deep into your bones. The fire was never outside of you. It was always within. Life's trials didn't ignite it. They simply revealed it. And now that you found it, you understand. You were never fighting against the fire. You were learning to remember that you are the fire. The awakening is not about power. It's about peace. Because when you know your strength, you no longer need to prove it. You simply live it. Every breath you take now hums with purpose. Every step you take leaves light in its wake. You have become a living forge where pain and hope coexist, where endings become beginnings. Six, the eternal flame time will pass. New storms will come. And again, the world will test you. But now you smile because you recognize the heat. You know its language. You have danced with the fire before, and you remember the rhythm. What others call destruction, you call transformation. What others call ending, you call rebirth. Because once you have been steel, once you have walked through flame and stood unbroken, there is nothing left to fear. You become the living symbol of resilience, a reminder that the strongest light is born in the darkest furnace. And in your final breath, when you look back on the path of smoke and gold behind you, you will know you did not just survive the fire, you became its keeper. The world will forget many names, but it never forgets those who refuse to bow. Those who turned agony into art and failure into faith. Those who rose when there was no reason left to rise. You are one of them. A testament carved not in marble, but in endurance. A story written in heat and hope. You are steel that fire couldn't break. The fire that tried to destroy you became the light that defines you. See, Minh Quang.